Hey there, Pop-Tarts. Let's talk a little bit about resistance, because this is something that comes up a lot for my clients. It comes up a lot for the people that I work with one-on-one. I confront it with people in readings that I do for them. I confront it in spiritual counselling sessions. And it's a big kind of shadowy swamp that a lot of people find themselves struggling with in one way or another, is setting up goals, deciding upon whatever it is that one desires, and then, planning to take all of these great steps towards the goal or make these positive life changes, and then nada, zilch, nothing, resistance, just basically being stuck in the quicksand, just kind of stuck in the bog, in the quagmire, can't move, just can't seem to actually get on the road to doing these amazing things. Lots and lots of planning, lots of great intentions, but then suddenly when it comes time to execute those plans, nothing going on. And that is when we find that we are in that state of resistance, which is just such a classic issue that so many of us face with different things. It can be very, very difficult to combat resistance in a self-loving way. The instinctive response, the initial response, the primary response is to berate yourself, mock yourself, criticize yourself, punish yourself, bully yourself. And we've all been there, we've all done that. It's like you decide on these great things that you're going to do, these great changes you're going to make, these steps that you're going to take daily or weekly to move yourself into closer alignment with your goal or with the feeling of well-being. And you have all of these amazing intentions, and in the planning phase it feels so good and it makes sense, and you know that that is what you need. So when you find that you're in resistance and you're not taking those steps, obviously it feels very natural, and it comes from a natural place to get angry with yourself and to be like, for fuck's sake, do it. Why won't you do it? It's good for you. It's the best thing for you. Why are you just standing there? And that's when you start to become an enemy to yourself. That's where you're really pitted against yourself in that moment. You're not working with yourself in a productive way. You're actually tearing yourself down and seeking to berate yourself and make yourself feel bad. And that is actually when the inner bully archetype is coming out, and the inner bully archetype is just shredding you to pieces even more and putting you into even further resistance. You'll really dig your heels in then. Think of it this way. If somebody really needed to be encouraged and motivated and kind of inspired to do something and to own their potential, and you could choose whether or not to do that by giving them inspiring words and, kind of highlighting their strengths, or alternatively, you could choose to do it by bullying them, making them feel like shit about themselves, giving them a lot more stick than carrot. You would evidently choose the former. You would choose to, inspire that person in a loving way and, motivate them, make them feel great about themselves, remind themselves that they can do it, that they do have the strength to carry on. You've got to take that same road with yourself, okay? So instead of bullying yourself, instead of kind of ripping yourself to shreds for not doing what you're supposed to be doing or what would be good for you, it's really important to give yourself that encouragement, give yourself that loving support. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that inner kind of boot camp sergeant, you know what I mean? Sometimes you do need that tough love, and sometimes you do need to talk to yourself very clearly and say, look, come on, snap out of it, babe, you've got this. But it should always be with that loving edge. It should never be in a way that sounds like bullying, You should never really speak to yourself in a way that you would never dream of speaking to somebody that you love. That's kind of rule one. That's self-love 101. If you're in resistance and you're really struggling to put the positive steps into action, the first thing to do is to give yourself a hug, okay? And the second thing to do is to go back to the drawing board and have a look at the why. Why did you decide to put these positive steps into action in the first place? Why did you decide to make these positive changes? What is it about the schedule that you've set up that you feel would be really enriching and really nourishing for you? Sometimes we need to pick up the phone to the why, okay, and just get a sense of why it is that we're trying to bring these changes into being. We can forget that. We can really forget that. And sometimes we just need to be put back in touch with that and remind ourselves, okay, this is why I want to make these positive changes. So we're doing away with the nasty, bullying self-talk, the ripping yourself to shreds and being really fucking mean to yourself. We're doing away with that. And we're also reacquainting with the why. We're kind of shaking hands with the why again, and that's the starting point, you know, for overcoming resistance, is to be like, okay, well, why do I want to eat healthier? Why did I decide I was going to do, you know, a regular journaling practice? Why did I want to spend more time at my altar? Why did I decide, you know, I was going to make these changes in this friendship? You know, think about the things that you're trying to implement, that you're struggling to implement, and then just be really frank and honest with yourself about the why. Why did you decide to implement those things? What was the point of it? When we establish our relationship again with the why, that kind of acts as a little bit of a reset button when we're in resistance, and that can be a really good thing. Take a look at your relationship to the concept of time. This is a really big one for people that are in resistance, you know. I speak to a lot of people in my line of work who have these ideas of positive changes that they want to make, really great things they want to do to move themselves towards their goals. But they have a really destructive, really unhealthy, dysfunctional relationship with time. They generally tend to see time as an enemy. They don't really have a good sense of time management, or they feel frightened by the idea that there's so little time in the day. So they kind of need to reframe their response to how many hours there are in a day. And that's very, very simple, believe me, because I've gone through that myself. I used to very much be there's not enough hours in the day. There's not enough hours in the day. Oh my God, I've got so little time. And I actually kind of daily have to reframe that sometimes. I do have certain days where I wake up in that mindset, and I have to distinctly look at how long a minute is. I have to look at how long an hour is. I have to think to myself, you know, wow, it only takes 10 minutes to go to the shop and back. You know, that's kind of only 10 minutes of an hour. So I reframe it and I'm like, there's actually quite a lot of time in the day. I could do quite a lot with this hour. Let's see how hard I can make this hour work for me. I want to see how much return I can get on the investment of this hour. And I get excited about it, and I actually get quite thrilled by it. And I'm like, whoa, let's see how far this day could go. You know, let's see how much payback I can get if I really invest myself in trying to make time work for me. So it's a reframing process. It's about getting excited about the clock face, rather than constantly seeing it as your enemy and letting it depress you and letting it make you feel like crap. It's really about kind of waking up with this excited sense of, let's see how hard I can make time work for me and how much I can actually get out of the next 8 hours or 10 hours. Always think of the next minute as an opportunity for a fresh start. Don't tell yourself, okay, do not tell yourself that you fucked up an entire hour of your day because you screwed up the first 10 minutes of it, okay? So if you decided, for example, that you were going to clean for the whole hour between 10 and 11, and actually you kind of sat around on your ass for the first quarter of an hour, like from 10 till 10:15, you just couldn't pull yourself away from YouTube, and like you were just there under the covers with your tea, like, no, I don't want to. Do not tell yourself that the hour is screwed now and so you can just carry on watching YouTube for the rest of the hour. No, you can still seize the hour. There is still another 45 minutes left in that hour. Snap out of it. It's really important to be able to see that every single minute is an opportunity to choose again. That can overcome a hell of a lot of resistance in a hell of a lot of different areas of life, you know. When we think of time as static blocks, and when we think in a very perfectionistic way that we need to make this entire block of time work for us or else, that is where we start to waste a hideous amount of time, and we go into resistance on a really unhealthy scale. I prefer to see it as every single minute being an opportunity to make a different choice. If I made a crappy choice for the first half of the day, that does not mean that the day is fucked. I can no longer afford to think like that. It's not very good for my well-being. It's not very good for my depression. It's not very good for my business, you know. I need to always be thinking to myself, okay, you know what? I screwed that up, but that's fine. I've still got X amount of hours until I go to bed. Let me just start by doing this for myself that I said I was going to do. Let me start by doing this very small thing. Take some time over the coming days. I would definitely recommend this, to check in with the way that you are when it comes to time. Be really honest with yourself. Do you have a dysfunctional relationship with time? Do you tend to see time as really like static, non-negotiable blocks, you know, where it's like, oh, I've fucked up this hour for the first 5 minutes, so that means this hour is screwed. You know, I've messed up the first half of the day, so now the day is just redundant, forget about it, it's, you know, I can't claw it back. Do you tell yourself those stories? You know, is that your narrative? Because that is definitely going to support resistance massively. It's definitely going to bolster the resistance that you've already got going on. So reframing your relationship with time can sometimes be such an important part. of having less resistance in your life, just letting go of that resistance and doing what you set out to do. This moves me on to something else really important about resistance that I see a lot when I work with clients, you know, and it's something that I've definitely done battle with in my own life. And it's something that I think we could all stand to think about. And that is the realism of your expectation. How realistic are you being about what you can achieve? And how fair are you being with yourself about what you can achieve? Because actually a lot of resistance comes from having way too high of an expectation of yourself. You're not magnanimous, okay? You're not Wonder Woman or Superman. You are not able to have limitless energy and limitless time to do limitless things in the course of a day, nor should you ever expect yourself to do that. Usually when people have massively high expectations of themselves and they really, really want to push themselves in a way that isn't generally realistic, they're normally the exact same kind of people who would never expect others to do that, you know? So normally people that really expect way too much of themselves are the same people that will tell others to take a load off and, you know, just stop being so hard on yourself. You're only human. So I often advise people that have a very, very high bar for themselves. They set a ridiculously high bar for themselves in terms of what they expect themselves to do with their day. I often tell people like that to start talking to themselves the same way they talk to others. So if you're the kind of person that knows as you're listening to this that you do have really high expectations for yourself and that is part of your resistance to getting started, I would definitely recommend talking to yourself like you would talk to a beloved friend. You know, really be gentle with yourself. Be gentle with yourself and say, hey, you don't need that massive to-do list that's as long as your arm. You're scaring yourself with that. You're freaking yourself out with that. Why don't you just start with a tiny little thing? Stop intimidating yourself with this massive list of things that you've got to do before you go to bed, you know. You're freaking yourself out and you're making the resistance more. Be gentler with yourself, you know, and start with something little and easy and manageable and realistic. A lot of people don't actually realise that their to-do list is a massive culprit when it comes to their resistance, you know. If someone's got a to-do list as long as their arm and they're telling themselves that they can do these like 10 things or 12 things or 14 things in a day, the likelihood is that their to-do list is going to be depressing to them. It's going to be a source of like a panic for them. It's going to be a source of worry. It might feel really good to write that massive to-do list, you know, it might feel very exhilarating and very kind of revitalizing, and you might write it the night before and you're thinking, yes, this is going to be amazing, it's going to be the best day ever, I'm going to do all of this shit and it's going to be incredible, I'm going to turn my life around, you know, and you get super invested into it. But then in the morning when you wake up, that to-do list is a problem. It's freaking you out, it's making you feel small, it's overwhelming, you don't know where to begin with it, you start to second guess some of the things on it or the priority order that you've put things in, and it just starts to become a source of anxiety and panic for you quite a lot of the time. A lot of people that are kind of to-do list queens or kings, if you like, they write the massive list and then they spend the majority of the next day or the majority of the rest of the week trying to avoid that massive list because it's a source of pain for them. It's scary, it's overwhelming, you know, and it actually makes them feel small. If you're picking up what I'm putting down right now and you know that you're the kind of person that does this, that freaks themselves out with this massive to-do list, then I would challenge you, obviously, to be more realistic about what you can get done during the course of a day or during the course of a week. But I would also challenge you to underwhelm yourself with how little you plan to get done. If you have a bad relationship with to-do lists, then I would recommend switching to just deciding on the absolute bare minimum that you're going to do. Because 9 times out of 10, the to-do list is freaking you out, okay? It's a source of panic, it's a source of displeasure, it's a source of discomfort and negativity. So instead, I would definitely just strip it back to the bare minimum that you're going to do. Anything else is a bonus, but it's the bare minimum that you've got to get done. I will give you an example that I give to my clients quite regularly. Let's say that I want to write a novel and I have this novel in my head and I just want to birth it into the world. And my plan is to write a chapter of the novel, write chapter 1 of the novel, that's the plan. And I've been resisting doing that for several kind of days in a row or for several weekends straight, or maybe it's even moved on into like a few months into the future and I'm still really in resistance to writing that first chapter and I just have not managed to sit down and knuckle down and get on with it. Taking things to the absolute bare minimum is taking it down from a chapter to a fucking sentence, okay? Now, you might want to try taking it from a chapter down to a paragraph at first, see how that feels. But if that still feels very overwhelming and very yucky and a little bit daunting, take it down to a sentence. Seriously, take it down to a sentence. And it feels weird at first. It feels really odd at first because it's like, well, a sentence is nothing. I mean, what the hell? What kind of a goal is that? A sentence? That's ridiculous. But think about it, okay? If you've been trying to write that bloody chapter for weeks and weeks and weeks and you haven't written it, wouldn't it be great to go to bed one night knowing that you've at least written one sentence? That's a lot more than you've managed to achieve in the last few months. Wouldn't it be great to just do that? So the sentence then becomes your bare minimum. Anything else is bonus points, okay? So if you sit down in the chair to write your one sentence, which is already a lot less overwhelming and a lot more manageable, but then after you've written that sentence, you think, I could write 5 more sentences. I could write a little bit more. Maybe I could write for a bit longer. That's bonus. That's the cream on top. That's brilliant. That's where it's at, baby. So you carry on and you carry on. But if you don't feel like carrying on, if you just want to write the sentence and then that's it and you want to walk away, equally you can do. You've done your bare minimum, okay? So that's what you plan to do. You've done that. You can absolutely have a cookie. That's fine, you know? But 9 times out of 10, once you've sat down and you've written that sentence, you're in the writing mode and you do feel like writing more. So it actually tends to work that once you sat down to write that one sentence, you're over the hump, you're over the resistance hump. And that's how it works. Let's use another example. Let's say that you plan to declutter your home. Let's say that you know that it's going to be amazing for you. It's going to feel so awesome once you've decluttered your home, you've gotten rid of all that crap you don't need, your space is yours again. But you feel major resistance to doing it. It's been weeks and weeks and months and months and months and you still have not decluttered your home. Decluttering your home then is a goal that is just too big. It's overwhelming, it's scary, it feels negative to you. So we're going to cut it all the way back down to the bare minimum. And the bare minimum could be something like, I am going to go through that one drawer. Just that one drawer. That's all I'm going to do for today. That's your bare minimum, and that's what you've got to do. After that, you can do whatever you want. You can read your book, you can go for a walk in the park, you can go out for a drink with friends. You're allowed to carry on with your life, but you must do just that one drawer. Just that little thing. Instantly, your resistance will start to lower right down because it's manageable, it's realisable, it's actionable. You can see the end. You can see the end in sight. You know what the end goal is. Okay, it's to get to the bottom of that drawer and to have everything sorted in that one drawer. So instantly your resistance just starts to drop and you start to sit more in a comfortable place where you feel empowered and you feel like, yes, I can do this. Okay, this is manageable. This is achievable. This is sensible. I'm not overwhelmed. Again, your ego is probably going to creep in and say, one drawer. One drawer, that's pathetic. Look at this whole house that you've got to do and you're just going to do one drawer. But you've got to remember that it's got to be self-loving. You can only drop your resistance and move into action if you are on your own team. You've got to be in alignment with yourself. You've got to be a friend to yourself. Once you're an enemy to yourself and you're bullying yourself and you're being a mean little critic and you're picking away at yourself, that's when you're likely to dig your heels in and get scared and go, oh, you're right, I'm so pathetic, I should just tidy this whole house right now, and you know, and that's not going to happen because it's not realisable, it's not achievable, it's not realistic. So anytime you hear your ego coming in and saying that is pathetic, you know, your one sentence, your one drawer, like you've really got to remember that that's where you're pitted against yourself and you've got to stop that, you've got to avoid that. Whenever the inner bully comes out, whenever the inner critic comes out, you've got to notice it in the moment. You've got to catch yourself in the act in that moment. And you've just got to choose again, make another decision. Make another decision. And you know what? Changing a neural pathway which is set up and which has been ingrained for a really long time is difficult. It's really difficult. So let's say that you have a neural pathway that's set up because over time you've always resorted to criticising yourself and bullying yourself whenever you're in resistance. So the neural pathway is set like that. It's automatic. It just happens, okay? Whenever you feel resistant to something and you don't do what you say you're going to do, the inner bully comes out and says you're so shit, you're so worthless, you're so pathetic. That's a neural pathway and it's ingrained, it's set in that pattern and it goes off automatically like an alarm. And a lot of the time it goes off under the radar. You don't even notice it. That's a neural pathway. Making the conscious decision to change that neural pathway and to move into a self-loving way of addressing the problem is wonderful. It's a wonderful decision to make, but the action of doing it, it's lengthy, it's tough, it's difficult, you know. I always explain it to my clients like when you defy the sat-nav. So you are going a different way than the sat-nav is programmed to take you. So you go over the roundabout, you know, and the sat-nav says, make a U-turn, you know, you're going the wrong way, make a fucking U-turn. And you're waiting for the sat-nav to reprogram, but it won't reprogram, but you're still driving a different way because you know that's the way you want to go. Changing your neural pathway up is the same thing. So you're going to have to keep putting yourself on the new road lots and lots and lots of times, because your mind will go, no, we're bringing the bully archetype in. You're shit, you're worthless, you're crap, you're nothing. And you have to consciously say, no, we're not taking that road anymore. No, we're not taking that road. We're going this way. We're going this way. We're moving into love. We're moving into self-support. We're moving into self-soothing. We're not going down this road of self-loathing. It doesn't go anywhere. It's a fucking dead end. It's shit. I don't like it, you know? Just because you know intellectually that you do not want to bully yourself anymore does not mean that you can instantly stop bullying yourself. It doesn't work like that. I wish it did, you know? We can know intellectually that we're doing something that's harmful to ourselves, and we can know intellectually that we want to stop. But the process of making change is arduous and slow, and you've got to stay the course. You've got to stay the course. And you will try and move back down that road of bullying and criticising and being mean to yourself. You will, because the pathway is set. The neural pathway is set. But it took a very, very, very long time of you bullying yourself and berating yourself. It took a very long time for that pathway to become so ingrained in your mind. So what makes you think that you can carve a new pathway overnight? You can't. You cannot. You've got to keep building it. You've got to keep deepening it. You've got to keep committing to it. It's a daily practice. You've got to keep turning up and doing the work, okay? So when you're carving that new pathway, which is much more in alignment with self-love and, you know, supporting and respecting yourself, that's going to be just as, you know, as much of an effort to set up. You're going to have to keep doing it, and soon it does become organic and it does flow like that. But it does take time, you know. I mean, I teach self-love. I teach self-love for a living. I teach self-love on the channel. It's a big, big part of what I do for my business. It's a big part of what I believe in. It's a massive, massive part of my ethos. But I still do have times where I berate myself, I talk down to myself, I tell myself I'm so shit, and I catch myself in the act. And I've become way better at doing it, of course, because I teach it and I think about it all the time, and I'm constantly trying to perfect the way that I teach it, and I'm constantly learning more about how other people experience it, and I'm kind of absorbing that information from clients and from my audience so that I can help people more effectively. So I think about it a lot. So it's quite easy now for me to catch myself in the act, but it doesn't mean that I don't berate myself anymore. I do have moments where I'm like, oh, you fucking stupid bitch, you've just wasted half the day. It's already the afternoon and you're still in your pyjamas. You're pathetic. You could have gone for a run. You could have done this. What the fuck are you doing with your life? Get a grip. Like, I do that sometimes. I do. I look at somebody, there's a particular person whose vlogs I watch, not in the witchy community, but she always seems to get so much stuff done. And every so often, if I've had an unproductive day, or I'm just feeling like I could have done more, and I'm feeling kind of disappointed with myself, I compare myself toxically to her, and I have to go, whoa, hey, you're not her. She's not you. This isn't about her. This is about you. Come on, come back to love, come back to self. My point in telling you a little bit about my own issues and my own journey is just to stress that I'm not immune to it. It's not like a light switch where you wake up one day and you're like, I will never ever do that to myself again. I will never berate myself again. I will always set realistic goals. I will never bully myself or be my own worst critic. And it's just like that. It just stops and it never happens again. This is why I say and have always said that self-love is a daily practice. You'll always have moments where you feel like ripping a strip off of yourself. You feel like really tearing yourself to shreds and comparing yourself toxically or telling yourself that you should have done more. You're going to come up against those moments, but you've got to catch yourself in the act, and you've got to make a different choice. And you've got to just keep doing that consistently. It does become more organic, and you do over time become way less inclined to criticise and bully yourself. I can promise you that, and I can attest to that in my own life. But it does happen. It does happen. And it doesn't mean that you've gone backwards and it doesn't mean that all of your hard work has suddenly become undone. You've just got to be with yourself in that moment, make a different choice. It's all going to be okay. Think about the positive steps that you want to take, the positive changes that you want to make in your life, your most sincerely and deeply held desires, your loftiest goals. They could be creative, they could be spiritual, they could be to do with physical health and well-being and diet, they could be to do with any number of aspects of life depending on who you are as an individual. Bring them to mind now as you're watching this video and sit with that desire, sit with that goal, sit with those positive steps that you really, really want to make. Take them to the core of yourself. Then connect them to the why. Why do you want those things? Why do you want those things? How would they benefit you? How would they make you feel? How would they bring you into closer alignment with your purpose or with your sense of what it means to be alive and well in the world? Hold the why close to your heart. Feel it filling you up with vitality. Love the why. The why is everything. If you can't find the why anymore, then you might need to reassess your goals. Your goals might not be what they used to be, and that's okay. You must give yourself permission to change your goals. You evolve, and your goals are going to evolve as you evolve. So if you can't find the why, if the why is elusive to you, if you're struggling to understand why you want what you want, then go back to the drawing board and decide if you still really want what you thought you wanted. Once you've found the why and you're sitting with it and you're just really feeling it, make a decision. Make a decision that you're going to approach the goal in a healthier way. You're going to approach the desire in a healthier way. Make a statement of intention to yourself. Make a declaration of your commitment to yourself that you're going to approach these goals in a way which is manageable, which is fun, and which is self-loving. Ask yourself how you can create a healthier relationship with the clock face, with linear time. Ask yourself how you can begin to think of each day as a wide landscape that is just filled with possibility. Ask yourself how you can begin to stretch your sense of what a minute is and what an hour is. Ask yourself how you can change the story. So if you've been telling yourself that there's just no time in the day, there's so little time, an hour is nothing, I feel like I can't get anything done, ask yourself what that's doing to put you into resistance. Like, how is that negatively affecting you? How is that harming your sense of what you can achieve? And then make a commitment to reframe your response to time. Reframe it. Make different decisions about it. Tell yourself different stories about how much time is available in a day. The more you reinforce your belief that there's no time, there's no time, there's no time, the more that belief is going to become your reality. After you've reassessed your relationship with time and made a commitment to see it in a positive way rather than in a restrictive and a scary and a negative way, the next thing is to make the goal more manageable, more realistic. So cut it down and then cut it down again and then cut it down again and cut it down again. And what you need to be focusing on is just that first little bit, just the first little bit, just that one drawer, just that one sentence, just that one little walk around the block, just cut it down to one thing. Because if you're looking at the entire goal and it's not actionable and you can't see the end of it and it just seems so overwhelming and the magnitude of it is so much, then of course you're going to be in resistance. Of course you are. But if you're just focusing on that one healthy eating choice that you're going to make today, or that one bad habit that you're going to not do for the next hour, or you're just looking at that one little piece of the house that you're going to organise and tidy, just that one thing, and you're kind of looking at it like that, then the resistance will lower, you won't be scaring yourself so much, and then you'll see what you're capable of. Remember, bare minimum. What's the bare minimum that you can do? Focus on that. Anything else is the cream on the top, and enjoy that, because quite a lot of the time when you focus on the bare minimum and you commit to getting that done, that does lead to more momentum. It does lead to a heightened pace. It leads to a heightened sense of intention, and you will end up getting more done. But if you don't, it doesn't matter. The bare minimum is the goal. Remember that issues with resistance need to be approached with self-love, not with self-loathing. Be on your own team. Be an asset to yourself. Be a friend to yourself. And that is definitely the very first step, I think, to dealing with resistance in a healthy way and helping yourself to get over the hump and actually move into action. This has been the topic of resistance through the lens of self-love. I hope that you've enjoyed it and I hope that you've gained something from it. Much love and thank you so much for watching. Blessed be.